Welcome to Becoming Fearless, the personal growth podcast for you if you are ready to overcome fear and step into your greatness. Our purpose is to help you overcome your limits, have loads of fun along the way, unlocking your fullest potential in life, business, health and relationships every single day. I'm your host, Charlotte Carter, a high-performance coach and entrepreneur with over 20 years' experience. I've supported many highly driven, talented people like you who dream big and are ready to take action to overcome what's holding them back. Each week, my guests and I will be sharing hacks and habits on how to build self-belief, courage and confidence to master your mindset and navigate your emotions so that you can reach your human potential in a way that feels light, fun and easeful and helps you become fearless. Let's go. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Becoming Fearless. This is a guest episode for your ears and it's going to be full, it's going to be potent, it's going to be energetically charged and it's going to be something that I really invite you to come back and listen again and again and again. It's going to be one of those episodes where you get more and more out of it the more that you tune in for the little gems that me and my guests are going to discuss. So let me first introduce you to this wonderful woman that I think our paths crossed in very different guises about 4 or 5 years ago. We were different people. We weren't claiming our powers or brilliance in any different guise. We were kind of like former shadows, should we say. And over the time, we've both kind of come into the space and owned everything that makes us uniquely brilliant, which is what we both encourage people to do and find and unleash within themselves. So, Buckso, let the world know who you are and let's take it from there.
So, thank you, Charlotte, first of all, for having me on here and for asking me that pertinent question, which is, one is very loath to limit oneself by giving a statement of what it is that I pertain to do. But unfortunately, in society, we all need to have that so that you can then put me in a box and a space in your brain where you feel safe to continue listening to this conversation. Hopefully, by now, you've decided that's going to be a case anyway. But for those of you that need the intel and a need-to-know basis, I am an energy transformation coach. I'm a speaker, I'm an actor, I'm a singer, and I am a spiritual life practitioner. So that's basically it in a nutshell. And there's going to be loads of questions about this, that, and the other, I understand. So I'm just going to end it on that one so you can continue, Charlotte.
And there's definitely, I was at Buckso's event. All of Buckso's details will be under the podcast so that you can go and follow her and check her out and go and follow all the fabulousness that she does. But I was at Buckso's event last week and this woman is indescribable. There is a place in her heart for everyone. There is a space for everyone. And there's a real opportunity for people to really grow. So let's go right back. Let's talk about becoming fearless before we go off on all our other juiciness, because becoming fearless is where some of the listeners are. They're really scared of actually working out who they are. They're really scared of owning that. Some of them feel like everything's really heavy. Some of them are spiritually curious, should we say. Some of them are energy curious. And fear seems to be the main hurdle at first. Curiosity is there, but fear is there. What would you say your fears, let's talk about your fears that you've navigated so far in this world?
So for me, right now, if you were to say, what do you fear? There isn't anything, apart from deep water, which could be a past life thing, no doubt, but it doesn't impact my life. What do I fear? I can't really say I fear anything at this moment in my life because I kind of got to the space and place now where I trust all and every process that comes into my life. I did fear being alone. I did fear abandonment. I did fear rejection. I now know that to be a thing. And I didn't know that at the time until I was being tested only as recently as December last year, where I was being tested on that with my relationship with my husband. Been together 26 years. My dad passed 4 years ago. It'll be 5 years, January 2025. It'll be 5 years. And everything that was going to come out, to be dealt with, to be healed, happened over this last 4 years. When you're a kid, you fear losing your parents. When you're a kid, you do fear losing everything that's familiar to you, because you build your whole life basing your safety on that, unbeknownst to you. So when I lost all of that, marrying out of my culture 25 years ago, I knew that I was going to be on my own. And I knew that I was going to have to walk the path on my own. But I obviously wasn't scared enough of it to not do it. What I feared at the time was the path of familiarity, was the path of predictability that was yawning ahead of me, based on the fact that I was being expected to marry somebody that my parents wanted to pick for me. Wasn't going to happen. I had the fear of, oh my God, what will my parents say once they realise, my dad especially, I'm not going to do this. It was the fear of that reaction, which I didn't think about too much. I just allowed it to play out. And it wasn't great. I didn't see them for 7 years after that. And then when I did start to see them eventually, it was never the same again. So now, if I had to pick something, what do I fear? I fear people getting me wrong. I fear folks getting the wrong impression of me. Even though I know I have no control over that, zero control over it. It's fear bordering sadness, because it's like, oh my gosh, you're missing out on so much because you might fear me for whatever reason, for shining the light. And that's sad, and I'm scared of that. I'm scared that people will get the wrong idea, but then I know that if I'm triggering them, it's nothing I can do anything about.
And one of the things that is so true, isn't it, in the triggering, is that when people trigger other people, it's bringing stuff to the surface for them. So if anything Buckso or I talk about today, you're like, oh my goodness, that's a real gut punch. It's for something for you to highlight, for you to be able to work through, for you to be able to grow. And, we're just the deliverer. And we're always, got your best interests at heart. So tune into that. If there's something that we're saying, like that brings stuff up, it is definitely for you to explore if you choose to, for certain. So let's talk about how you've got to the place with all those fears. There will be people in their own version of that, where they're in a relationship or there's decisions that they're going to make that go against everything else that they're familiar with or that they know or anything like that. What do you believe that you had in you, this unshakable certainty in you, that's like, I'm not following that arranged marriage that my parents want. I am going to choose who I'm going to marry. What do you think you had in you that people listening can go, oh my goodness, that's what there's an invitation for me to focus on that?
There's a difference between thinking, I'm not doing that, and feeling it on a cellular level. And with my ignorance and naivety of whoever I was at the age of 11 and 12, when I was seeing my sisters getting married and leaving and my parents crying, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do that. So I made my first decision there. And then as I got older to being 15, 16, and then it constantly being about, Buckso, you need to lose weight. We're not going to be able to match you to anybody that's like any good otherwise. In that moment, something deep inside of me that wasn't from a thought process, but a feeling was like, what? You're telling me that I can't have somebody that I feel I deserve because I'm overweight and uneducated, I haven't been to uni and college? Well, that ain't right. I don't know where that came from. It was the essence of who I was, the core of me, that I was just like, had this conviction around the knowing. And it was then from there on became my thing, where I was like, I'll show you. And I ended up living my life. Now I know, after my dad passed, I realized I'd spent most of my life thereafter proving myself, proving my success, proving my relevance, my existence, even the choices that I made, the decisions I made. I always felt that I was proving that I could be a success at this. I'll show you. I know I've chose my path that you didn't want me to have, but I'll show you that this too can work. So that's where that came from. It was a part of you, and I now know that to be my higher self, my essence, soul, the truth of who I am. And I know we all have it, but we suppress it with the thought, the continuing thoughts, the continual oppressive thoughts, the way we speak to ourselves, the alcohol that we might partake in regularly, the disassociation from the self, where when we go through traumatic situations, our souls can sometimes partially leave the body just to allow us to function and survive in this 3D world. And, there's a bit of soul retrieval that might need to be done. And when you get older, you find yourself so disassociated that you don't actually know who you are anymore. And that's where you end up losing yourself.
And so, just another caveat, because we're going to go there again, there will be many people who have this pattern play out in different guises. I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove you. My pattern was about, right, to the teachers who told me I wasn't good enough, right, I'm going to get 1,000,001 qualifications because I'm going to prove to you that I am nothing like what you actually saw in that child. I knew that, very similar to Buckso. I knew that, we're off the same cloth type thing. We both know that. But when you are not so aware, which is where some people may be, Buckso, right now, when they're not so aware, it's like a real, you're flawed, aren't you? When you first start to become aware, you're like, oh my goodness, it played out in this part of my life, this part of my life, this part of my life, this part of my life. And then that begins your internal trust process. So let's talk about when you actually harness, because I know for you in the last year, you're skyrocketing now. There's something that's been ignited in you, maybe a last thread of this giving you power away, whatever it is. There's something that's actually, it's like, no more. I am who I am in every guise. And, that's what I stand for, despite anything else. So let's talk about what's happening for you, or what's happened for you, so people can see, okay, I've got to get more aware. I've got to be compassionate with myself. I've got to understand. I've got to bring everything back to inside of me. And then when I've got that, how will I know that I'm actually there or on the path? We're always evolving, on the path where I'm like, oh, it's all kind of locked in.
So just give me the question again.
In amongst all of that. So the question in that was, you now, as the time of recording, are owning 100% you. 12 months ago, you might have been owning 85% you.
Yes.
In my view, this is just my view of you.
Yeah.
And so what switched for you to get you to claim the wholeness of you?
Okay, so I know that in the human element of who we are, we're always looking for validation, right? That doesn't necessarily escape us as we're doing the healing work and we're evolving. I think I've got to come to the place, I think I'd have to be in a state of enlightenment like the Dalai Lama to not look for external validation, okay? It's not likely to happen in this lifetime, and I'm okay with that. So there is a part of me, a little bit of me, that still requires external validation. Saturday at my event, seal the deal, okay? From the 85% that you spoke about, what's happened since then? I never stop having energy work done. I never stop removing the layers of onions. I never stop. I constantly do it, even to the point where my kids will say, my daughter will say, Mum, don't you ever, when I'm watching like Gaia or something on telly, don't you ever want to just like read something different or watch something different? I mean, I watch rubbish on Netflix, but she's talking about, don't you ever want to put something else in your body, in your brain? Aren't you doing just a bit too much of this? And it was interesting that she say that, because I never thought of it. I am literally, and I talk about it all the time, balls deep in this world, in this healing journey. You don't get to pick and choose whence the work starts to happen, because it's a continuation. So what'll happen maybe one day is I'll wake up and I'm like, I feel differently. My energy frequency has changed again. I have something called the Ascension Method, which is 13 symbols. And those 13 symbols, similar, to what happens when we have Reiki, those 13 symbols are all about ascension. Reiki is what activates us. And you always, the best way to explain it is, well, what would the ascension method be? It would be like the PhD in your education system of energy healing, right? Your Reiki is like your room 101. And then you've got other variations that you can do. And what would you do after? Nobody says, what can I do after Reiki? Everything else is just the same energy healing on the same level and on the same par with different names. But the ascension method is these 13 symbols that do what it says on the tin. And I've always said this year. My intention is to ascend and expand out of the noise, out of the milieu of all this bullshit that's going on in the spiritual community. I know it's toxic and I know it's there. I'm not about to bitch about it. I'm just going to ascend and expand. So I'm continually, with one of my methods of healing is access bars. I have that done regularly. That continues to clear my brain of any thought processes that are still lingering. It's accessing consciousness. I'm accessing more of my consciousness. In a nutshell, what has changed is that I'm accessing more consciousness. Access bars is a life changer.
Explain to people a little bit about access bars, Buckso, as a tool, as a methodology. Explain that as one of your things that you have yourself and that you help people with.
Yep. So access bars have been around just over 30 years now. A guy called Gary Douglas in the States was a medium once upon a time. And somewhere along the line, he got these positions on the brain that were channeled. And he stopped doing all the mediumship work and was guided to focus on this. There's 32 points on the head, which link to the brain's electrical current activity, because that's what the brain is. It's electrical current, right? We are electrical beings, right? The heart and the brain both operate on electrical current. So the 32 points are symmetrical. They map like half and half. They're on the same side on each side of the brain. And what they do is they have an electrical current between each point that's being held. So it runs across. That's why they call them bars. And you are basically holding that position up to 4 minutes at a time. And you are essentially, in a nutshell, deleting the electrical current that holds a thought relating to kindness, compassion, confidence, joy, sexuality, aging. Everything that's loosely attached to those topics are all in different parts of the head. You hold them positions and you're basically dissolving the negative charge around that thought, because we know thought creates feelings, causing emotions, taking action. So if you don't have them thoughts in the first place, right, you're allowing yourself more space to access your actual truth, your consciousness, your higher self, call it what you want. So this session normally lasts about 45, 50 minutes. My intention is always to bring up the shit that's going on in that given moment, because you don't get to pick and choose. I want to stop thinking about that person being a tosser. That's not how it works. You come into it with an open and a willingness to let go of whatever your brain is ready to let go of that day. And the prevailing thoughts, the one, because we talk about 60,000 thoughts a day and 80% are the same. That doesn't serve a purpose. What is the point of that? What are we doing about that? Sometimes you get to the point where you're just having talking therapy and it's like, I'm done talking. It's like, right, get on the couch, be quiet. There's no music because we don't want the brainwaves going into theta, relaxation, meditation. We don't want them waves. We want the alpha, whatever I don't know what the bloody name is of the mad one. We want them because we want them to be deleted. It's not about deleting memories. It's about deleting the electrical current around a thought process. So that, for me, 2017 came into my life. Game changer. That is the door that opened. That is the key that turned massively. And I think, personally, it was responsible for me being in a space, because then I show up differently, don't I? Because I'm not having them thoughts anymore, right? So I'm going to show up differently. So when I did the audition for Aladdin with Will Smith, I sent the footage off and I forgot all about it. And 2 weeks later, they want you. I subconsciously, like a lot of performers and actors probably, was going into an audition room and saying subconsciously, God, they're slimmer than me. Oh my God, she looks like she's the part. Yeah, she's going to get the part. You know, when you're talking to yourself and you think you're cool in the gang and you think you're like, yeah, I've got it going on. Yeah, I've learned my lines. I've done this and I've got this. but actually subconsciously your brain's telling you other things from its visual receivership of environment, right? And that is what we can never always fully control. So access bars gets rid of that background bollocks.
And it sounds like I've not experienced it. I've yet to. I'm sure I will, because it will be. It sounds super like a high performance tool for certain.
Oh, for
And
sure. You have to have it done to you. You can't do it on yourself. That's the unfortunate thing.
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And some things are like that, isn't it? But
Yeah.
what I think for you, watching and observing and being in your energy and in your presence, that tool, and people will have that tool will be really fabulous for some people. There will be other ones, but there'll be something that unlocks something in you to allow you, like Buckso said, access this next level space, and then access the next level consciousness that then brings you all the clarity that allows you to step up into the world as who you really are and what you're here to do. So let's talk about next steps. What's this real big? What's Buckso now, November 2024? What's the big plan or the big activation? Let's talk about that. What are you? What's 2025? What's the next steps really?
Do you know what? Great question, because yes, you could ask anybody this, but genuinely, it's like before now, I would have answered this question very gingerly and like, well, not believing what I was saying was ever going to happen. I genuinely am excited for where things are going, because I know it's not being led from ego, fear, vanity metric, anything outside of me, right? I've launched a magazine. The magazine was only going to be something I brought out in events. For those that were speaking, giving them a profile, highlighting them, it's available online, off you go. Universe had other ideas. It put an editor in front of me that said she would work with me for free until the magazine started making money to pay her. This is not a profit magazine. It's not about get the paper in. It's about it funding itself, right? Because it's about raising people's profiles, their visibility. Those spiritual entrepreneurs out there are great at what they do, but they are rubbish when it comes to getting on a platform and getting visible, finding their voice. That's my job. That's why I'm here. That's my purpose, is to create that platform. So the magazine is going to go hell for leather next year. Okay. It's going to be in partnership with the big Mind, Body and Spirit event that's in Birmingham. And that's also on in London next May. It's on Birmingham this weekend, actually, that I'll be going to as well. So it's going to be expansion, mate. I talk about ascension. I'm ascended. I'm in an ascended space. I'm operating from an ascended space. And what I'm doing is inviting other people. I'm giving the hand and saying, do you want to get out of that shit pit and ascend with us and expand your consciousness, your world, your possibilities, your potential? Because it's limitless. And like I've launched my membership, right? The membership itself is going to be evolving. This is the bare basics that I'm giving people that they know that they're getting. So it's called in-house, the membership, or under the umbrella of House of Wisdom, because that membership is going to continually evolve because of what I'm open to receive. You'll get as a result of being in that space. So it's expansion, mate. It's expansion next year. It's about putting on a retreat. It's about putting on the event in May instead of waiting till September, October. I was going to wait a year because that's what everybody else does. And I thought, do you know what? What happened on Saturday? Can't wait a year, can it? It's got to happen sooner rather than later. Because if people are trying to be more them, they need to have that momentum. And in 6 months' time, we've got some people that join the membership from that day. They're going to continue having me in their space and getting the healing every month and having the conversations every month that we had on that Saturday in more depth. When they come in May, it'll be like, oh, different person altogether. It ain't about me. It's not about me. It's about everybody else that's looking for a space to find their voice. That's what it's about, mate. Next year, expansion into helping people finding their voice.
Love, love, love. So all of the details to get hold of Buckso, to look at her membership, to look at how other ways that you can get to these events, to experience her magic in all of its guises and in all of the ways, remembering wholeheartedly that it will be growth for you, to allow you, wherever you are on the journey, to allow you to take what resonates and take the next steps in your growth. Come along again, do it again, those kind of things. That's how it works. So I could talk to you for ages, but, we will definitely connect again. So let's just wrap up and ask you the question that I always ask everyone, which is, what is a book that has helped you on your journey to become more fearless?
Wow. Back in 2021, I read this book on the spiritual practitioner program. I did 360-hour program. And in there was a book that we had to read a book every quarter. And this particular book was by Dr. Joseph Murphy. And it was called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. Now, this book, just one tip in there, if you, before going to bed, vision the thing, and this is something you do every night, go to sleep just constantly thinking about the thing and the vision that you have for yourself that you want to become, that you are having, your vision board all about, constantly playing it out in your mind as though you're doing it. That moment between going from that place into your sleep, that moment that you drop into sleep is the most powerful time. It's the most powerful time, and that's when the time when you are most likely to activate. And I've spent months and months and months listening to subliminal binaural beats and audio where somebody's speaking in one ear, then another ear, then another.
Yeah.
I've spent many a night, and I mean for months, with that, going to sleep with it in my ears. That, I should have said as well, is also part of the process. And you know something, I try to do it now with the same thing. Not interested. I'm almost like, that's elementary, dear Watson. You know, it's just like boring. It's very basic. So that for me is a sign of my evolution. When something doesn't work for you anymore, it's normally because you've expanded and you've evolved. Allow it, let it go. That worked and did it then for you, you know? So that's where I would massively invite everybody to consider going and getting themselves a copy of. Because the language that they use is very oldly, worldly in its delivery. It's like sometimes you need somebody to translate what just was said. But we had that with the lady that was the woman that was the amazing woman, Dr. Erin, that was running this course. So she explained a lot of the stuff that the layman won't understand. So this is what I'm going to be talking a lot about within my membership as well. But yeah, that book.
Awesome. And that's just rounded out on a great piece there, in that as you evolve, expand, ascend, however we want to go in terms of this journey of consciousness, things that worked for you at one point in your life that were brilliant, you thought they were great hack, you thought they were brilliant, they were the thing that was allowing you, they were the thing that allowing you in that moment, but then you evolve and you get to the next thing or things or ways, and it's the acceptance and the letting go of things rather than trying to just keep on with something that you think worked for a time. You've evolved. It's a real big piece in high performance. You've got to be able to have peace with momentum, with change, with transformation, so that you can keep elevating yourself and, as Buckso does so well, bring people who want to come on the journey with you. So thank you so much. I've absolutely adored our chat. I absolutely adore you. We have so much fun when we get together. So thank you so much. And
thanks, Charlotte.
Take care.
Cheers, love. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. I hope that you're feeling energized, fearless, and inspired to take action today to stand in your greatness. I share even more tools and resources on my I Dare to Leap email newsletter. By signing up, you not only get early access to the I Dare to Leap products and services, but you also get brand new podcast episodes delivered straight to your inbox every Monday, meaning you'll never miss your weekly dose of becoming fearless energy. Sign up now at www.idaretoleap.com/newsletter or click the link in the show notes below.